So firstly, hi guys, yeah, I'm Elaine. So I'm a H2 Chem tutor from OVERMUGGED. Okay, so for this is just a brief intro. So I've actually been teaching tuition for about 10 years now. Yeah, so I cover private tuition, group tuition, and also some crash course. So last year, OVERMUGGED just started our A-level crash course. Yeah, which yeah, the response was very good. Okay, so for today's agenda is just a brief intro of what is to come for J1 because I'm sure all of you are still enjoying life, enjoying orientation, right? So yeah, so nothing too heavy. Okay, just some tricks and strategy for you guys to take note on. And I'll do a brief overview on atomic structure. I know some of the schools that actually do more ratio concept, but most of the schools are starting on atomic structure, so I'll just touch on that. Okay, and lastly will be a Q&A. So if you guys have any question, you can just stay back and ask me, or any point of time, if you want, you can just type in the chat or just unmute yourself. Okay, this is just it's a very chill session. Yes. Okay. So next. So what's coming our way for chemistry? Okay, so all these are the chapters for H2 Chem. Okay, so transition metal is still KIV because for the past 2 years, because of COVID, they removed it. So we'll still wait and see, okay, whether it will come back for this year and of course, most of you are taking A-levels next year, right? Yeah, so we'll wait and see again. Okay, so mainly these are the chapters that we'll go through. So the red color ones are those that majority of the JC will go through in J1. Yeah. Okay, so there are certain JC that might be a bit off, like Millennial Institute. So sometimes they might be off, but generally the chapters are this for J1, okay, for promos. Okay, then the hardest chapter will be energetics and reaction kinetics. Okay, so these two are the most difficult for is only for J1. Okay, so for your promos, it will be energetics and reaction kinetics. Okay, so what are the strategies? So for the first strategy is obviously to test yourself. Okay, we can test yourself after every lecture. Okay, so sometimes even though the lecture might be shorter or the content might be lesser than what you expected, okay, but just refresh your memory after every lecture. And if you want, you can try to explain the chapter to a friend, okay, because they always say that if you can explain the concept to someone else and that person understand it, then obviously you yourself will understand the concept. Okay, and also it will help you to memorize the concept. Okay, then strategy 2, so again, practice. Okay, like what they always say, practice makes perfect. Okay, so do your tutorials. For J1, usually you can start your topical TYS if your school asks you to buy, or if you want, you can go to Popular and get it by yourself. Okay, so you can start practicing the questions on your TYS. So get the topical one first, because first you have to train yourself of how to identify the question on which chapters they are at. Okay, so the yearly TYS, you can keep that for next year for J2. Okay. Okay, then so just an important tips, okay, get our fundamentals right, okay, because one chapter builds onto the next. Okay, so each chapter will be linked, especially for more concepts, the calculation. So if you don't know the calculation, you will be lost in subsequent chapters. Okay, your kinetics, energetics, acid base. Okay, so ask question if unsure, don't accumulate, ask your teachers, you can ask me. Okay, and of course avoid your last minute practice. Okay, so first thing, overview on the atomic structure. Let me just, okay, you guys can see, right, the notes. Okay, so firstly for the first chapter, atomic structure, okay, I'll go through the content. So this is what you guys will be getting, okay, if you join the group lesson. Okay, so these are the notes that are curated notes produced, written out by the tutors ourselves. Okay, so each subject will have their own notes written out by the tutors themselves. Okay, So these notes will have some tips that will help you to understand each chapter and some exam tricks and tips also. Okay, so firstly, for atomic structure, just a definition. Okay, atom is the smallest particle. Okay, so don't get confused with atom, compound, and element. Okay, so in an atom, you have your proton, okay, and your nucleus, and your electron. Okay, so these are just the charges I'm sure you have known in your can I see the slide? Okay, hold on. Okay, so later on, if you have questions, we will run through again after the lesson. Okay, so for protons and neutrons, okay, they have a mass, they are of heavier mass, so they have a mass of 1. Okay, for electron, they are of very light mass. Okay, so this is the mass of the electron. So usually your MR, right, in a periodic table, okay, your atomic number and your atomic mass, you only count the mass of your protons and your neutrons. Okay, that's why you don't count the number of electrons in your AR. Okay, AR and NMR. Okay, so how this affects, right, the mass and the charge is your electric field. Okay, so this is how electric field will be like. Okay, so there's always 2 electrodes, your positive charge and your negative charge. Okay, so if you are electron, you will be negative charge, right? So you will be attracted towards your positive charge electrode. Okay, for neutron is neutral. Okay, so that's why it will not be attracted to both positive and negative. So of course, proton is positive. Okay, so you'll be attracted to the negative one. Okay, so how this relates, right, is the angle of deflection. Okay, so for the angle of deflection, the formula is proportionate to charge over mass. Okay, so if we remove the proportionate sign, okay, this is a bit math, okay, it will be a constant, a proportionate constant. Okay, so ultimately, it will be angle of deflection is equals to K charge over mass. Okay, so how do you implement this, right? It's, okay, so for example, you have an electron. Okay, so electron, your charge will be negative, correct? Then the mass, if you look back at the mass, is very small, 1837. So if you go back to the formula, okay, it will be charge, it will be angle of deflection equals to charge. So charge is -1 over your mass. So the mass is over 1836. Okay, so from here, you will be able to get the angle of deflection of your electron. Okay, then do the same for your neutron. So for neutron, angle of deflection, okay, because the charge is neutral, so it's 0. Even though the mass is 1, so ultimately it will be 0. So there's no angle of deflection for the neutron. So it's the black color one. Okay, so for proton, let's look at proton. Proton, angle of deflection equals to charge. So proton charge will be 1. Over the mass, also 1. So your angle of deflection will be 1. So it will be the red color one. So this is your angle of deflection for proton. Okay. And then your electron will be the yellow one, this one. Okay. So this is how you use the formula for the angle of deflection is equals to charge over mass. Okay, so we can look at the question to simplify it. So if you look at this,